Hello fellow Earthlings, it's Libs, and today I'm going to be reading 4 books from RUSSH's 30 Under 30 list. So RUSSH Magazine's 30 Under 30 list is just a list of book recommendations to read before you turn 30, and I typically don't really ever care about these lists. You should probably just read the books you want to read instead of trying to live up to weird expectations. But I did actually go through this list and I actually thought it was pretty good. I'd read some of the books on it. I think it was a good mix of like classics and interesting non-fiction and cool contemporary stuff, and I just thought it was a bit cooler of a vibe as opposed to some of the other lists I've seen. So I've picked 8 books from the list that I want to read. I'm going to do the first half in this video. This one is mainly focused on non-fiction and possibly poetry. I don't actually know, I can't remember which of Ocean Vuong's book is the poetry and which one's the story. We're gonna find out. So I have 4 books. 3 of them are definitely non-fiction. The 4th one I'm not so sure about, but I'm really keen to crack on into this video, and you'll find out about these books as I read them because I've forgotten the titles of most of them. Okay, it's editing Libs here. I was so all over the place with this vlog that I kind of just forgot to tell you what I was reading until halfway through the vlog. So I kind of just say, oh, I finished this book, and kind of forgot to tell you about it. So the first book I read for this vlog is Come As You Are. The first book I read is Come As You Are, which is a book about embracing your sexuality and learning that you are not broken. The second is Trick Mirror, which is an essay collection about media. The third is Ways of Seeing, which is a book about sort of art criticism and I'll just go with it's a book about art criticism. I explain more in the actual vlog. And the fourth book I read is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, which, as I eventually learnt, is his fiction novel, not his poetry collection. And this book is about this guy writing a letter to his mother who cannot read English, kind of talking about all the things he cannot say to her. Hopefully this will make the rest of the vlog way more clear. So I've actually already finished the first book, which is Come As You Are, and I've already forgotten the name of the author, but I'll put that here. This is essentially a non-fiction book about the science of sex. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I feel like it's definitely a book you need to read. There's a lot of the book is mainly about learning to trust yourself and not feel weird pressures or expectations, and I don't know, it's a lot more articulate in the book. I just thought it was really well written, well researched, did a really good job of keeping my attention throughout, because it was a 12-hour audiobook, so it was a long one. I thought it was fantastic. I definitely think it's a good one to read at any age, really. Perhaps not as a young adult, but anyone sort of over the age of 18 will probably have a really positive time reading this book. And yeah, I think it's great. I gave it 4 stars. It's fantastic. Okay, I'm halfway through Trick Mirror and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's kind of like a collection of essays kind of about the media and feminism and what it means to kind of like be growing up in the age of the internet. I really enjoyed an essay about what it was like for the author to be on a reality TV show when she was a teenager, and that one was really interesting, and kind of looking at how it's a weird like snapshot of her teenage years, but also how everyone was playing a different kind of part, and kind of how what was real and what wasn't real, and how everyone kind of changed their behavior to fit the show was really interesting. So I'm keen to keep going with this one. Okay, I just finished Trick Mirror and I absolutely loved it. I kind of thought I would. I know there have been like mixed opinions about this book, but I loved it. I love a really good essay collection where I can kind of see how it all intertwines. If it's not like, it's kind of got a theme going through it, but it doesn't at the same time, but it worked. I think in the second half, I don't really remember. There was some some of the essays that really stood out at the end was there was one on marriage and there was one on assaults on campus that really like, stood out to me. Particularly the campus one, I think, was probably one of the most solid ones in the collection. I listened to it via audiobook, so that's my one issue with essay collections, is I can never really remember like what all the essays were about because I can't go and check. But yeah, I think those, and then the one I mentioned before about when she was on a reality TV show, are the three that really stood out in this collection. And I've really enjoyed it. I can see why it would be on RUSSH's 30 Under 30, just because it talks about social media and campus life and getting into the workforce and things that I think are very applicable when you're in your 20s. So I really enjoyed this collection. I can't quite believe that both books have been 5 stars for me so far. I'm shocked. I've got 2 more to go. One's about art and the other one is an ocean Vuong, so I'm super keen to get around to them. I also figured I should probably actually go on to RUSSH's website and tell you what books I'm reading. I've had heaps of assignments due, so I kind of am all over the place at the moment. But no, I just read Trick Mirror Reflections on Self-Delusion by Jai Tolentino, and the article describes it as a collection of 9 original essays. Tolentino explores the forces that warp our vision, demonstrating a critical look into what it means to be an ambitious woman in the world, the media, feminism, consumerism, the lot. Sharp and witty, Trick Mirror is an eye-opening must-read. The book I read before was Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, and the article describes it as a modern sex bible for everyone, everywhere. Sex educator Dr. Emily Nagoski acts as a worldwide honest big sister by debunking the common sexual myths that make people feel unclear and inadequate when it comes to sex, while reassuring the reader that most of the time it is in fact quite normal. Again, 5 stars, I love that one. I'm about to start Ways of Seeing by John Berger, which I don't really remember anything about. Seeing comes before words. The child looks and recognizes before it can speak. John Berger's prolific Ways of Seeing explores the way we view art in the most captivating way, and will change the way you view art and the art world forever. It's probably the one I've been the most excited for. There are so many books on this list that I want to read. It's just, I can't read them all. I can't read them all, and I will be doing a part 2 to this video at some point. There's also some books that I think are going to be quite difficult to find, or that I can't borrow very easily.
So there might even be a part 3. It's just some of these books I want to read for separate videos as well. But also I might just keep going because they sound really cool. Okay, the Ocean Vuong book I will be reading is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Another perfect memoir-style novel in the form of a letter where the writer addresses his estranged mother who cannot read and unfolds his life growing up as a queer Vietnamese American. Tear-jerking and beautifully written, this is a must-read in regards to the style of prose and the subject matter. I know I grew from reading it, so I'm very keen for that one as well. Okay, I feel like you are all caught up on what I am doing now. This is good.
I'm about a third of the way through Ways of Seeing, and I'm actually quite enjoying it so far. I think the first little bit, I don't want to say it was boring, but if you've studied art or media, you know everything that it is kind of saying. It's definitely gotten more interesting. It's talking about how the presumed ideal spectator in art is considered to be male, and so you've got all these pieces of art which are just of women trying to cater to the male gaze. So it's been exploring that a lot, which has been quite cool. I think this book would be really interesting for anyone who wants to study art or media, or maybe first year students would really appreciate this book. I think it's just going over a lot of things that I've already studied, so it's useful to underline things and use them as a source at some point in the future, but it's not really at this stage saying anything that I don't already know. So I'm interested to see what direction it goes in. I have finished Ways of Seeing. It was fine. I think it's just, I don't know, it's more a book where it had some interesting things to say and it said it very well, but I don't know, if you've studied any of the stuff before, you already know everything it's saying, and I don't know, there's even just on YouTube, there's so many video essays going into this stuff that I don't think you really even need to read this book. It would be good for total beginners, but outside of that, I don't think it's particularly exciting. I'm also about a third of the way into On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. It's so beautifully written, but it's also quite confronting. So I'll see how it goes, but there's a lot of pain and sadness in this book that I was expecting some pain and sadness, but this is just quite a lot, and I don't know, I just don't I've been reading a lot of heavy books lately, and this one's just kind of like, it's just a lot. Okay, so I finished reading 4 of RUSSH magazine's 30 under 30 books. I done a really bad job at keeping you updated, but everything kind of fell apart a bit at the end. I loved the first 2 books, and then the second 2 books I didn't love as much, and I was a bit disappointed. So I can't remember if I told you that I finished reading Ways of Seeing. We know how I feel about it, that didn't change. And then I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and this is without a doubt like the most beautifully written book I've read this year. It's so sad, and there's a lot of pent up trauma, and I was at no point excited to pick up the book. I was excited to hear beautiful language, but the story made me very sad, and I didn't really ever go through stages where I was like, oh, I really want to pick up the book to know what happens next, if that makes sense. It's about this guy writing a letter to his mother, and his mother can't read English, kind of going through their
joint trauma and pain, and he's talking to her about things he could never actually say to her. And I love it as a concept. I love the writing. It's just sad. And I get excited picking it up, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to really enjoy this book. I'm definitely more excited to read Ocean Vuong's poetry. I think that's definitely going to be more up my street as opposed to like a story. But that is it for this very poorly put together vlog. I loved Trick Mirror. That was probably my favourite book from this video. I think Come As You Are was fantastic, another 5-star. Then I'd probably rate On Earth Briefly Gorgeous. That was a 4-star, and then Ways of Seeing 3.5. I think it's good if you want an introduction to sort of art criticism and thinking about film criticism or media critiques and things like that. But that's the book that I think surprises me the most on this list, just for why it's on the list. Because I think most people, if they were interested in reading it, would have just, I don't know, read it, or they would have read books that are more updated, because this book came out in 72. So I think while it's a good book, there are more modern takes that you could read. But that is it for this video. I will see you next time. Bye.